so the key. And then he was given certain more antibiotics and some blood cultures were sent. And when the report came, we find that it was resistant to azithromycin, and so we decided to change it. What happened? Second, so what? Make a response. So what? So that means he was most probably suffering from an infection which was resistant to multiple antibiotics. He may have taken some antibiotics outside which made that organism resistant, and so one has to be very careful in giving antibiotics and deciding what antibiotics should be given or which should not be. And third, what next? So if I encounter another patient like this again, then what I am doing? So what is the action? So basically reflections, and I will request one of them to actually put a reference onto your WhatsApp group where we have actually given a lot of examples of reflections as to how students can write, how teachers can teach, and what kind of a learning can happen by writing reflections. Just I'd like to emphasize what was said is that reading without reflecting is like eating without studying. You can sit in the class, listen to a lot of stuff, but if you are not reflecting on it, then probably it is not going into your cognitive structures. Now, this probably comes out as the most important part, and that is how to organize the book. Failure to retrieve is one of the important points that many students actually suffer. In the exam, they are not able to write it. But once they come out, then they remember, ये भी लिख सकता था, ये भी लिख सकता था, ये भी कर. We have all experienced that ourselves when we were students and when we were giving examinations. And this organization of knowledge is important during both the things. One, during self-study, and second, during the classroom. Now, if you look at this little flow chart, then what happens is that there is something which the teacher is telling you. You acquire that knowledge, and by acquiring that knowledge, it becomes explicit knowledge. Understand the difference between implicit and explicit. Implicit, I know. Explicit, I know, I can explain, I can use, I can put it to practice. And then this internal knowledge and reflection, which actually provides you a lot of insight, actually helps in creation and modification of art. At the same time, if you are getting an opportunity to use that knowledge, then it helps you to integrate that knowledge with insight and actually result in creation or modification of that. Ultimately, why are we teaching? We are teaching the student so that we can reach this stage. And you have to provide a lot of inputs for the students to be able to reach that particular stage. Many of you may have already known this. How many know? Only one? Okay. So this is a technique being used since time immemorial. And this is when you are reading on your own, the book, the chapter, a topic, whatever. So this is called Q3R. Why Q3R? Because there are 3 R's, 1, 2 and 3. First, survey. So when I have a book, don't start page 1 and finish at the last page. That doesn't help. I had many friends, and actually they gave me a lot of depression during my student days. They would say, हमने grade 5 बार पढ़ी है, page 1 से page last. I was so scared. He had read 5 times. I have not even read once. So reading book from page 1 to page 1500 or 1600, that doesn't help. So when you have a book, just flip through the pages, see what it talks, see the way how it discusses, see what kind of problems are being used to explain, see what kind of diagrams are there. What is not there in the book? Well, some books may not have a diagram, some may not have a flowchart. So what is there? What is not there? Second is question. Read a part, close the book, ask yourself. Suppose you read typhoid. So what is the organism which causes typhoid? So salmonella. Is it gram-positive, gram-negative? Gram-negative. How is it transmitted? Orophycal. So ask yourself those questions. And it might be at times a good idea, and if I show you my books, you'll find most of them are colored like this. On the side of the book, you can, in pencil, write a small question. Wherever the epidemiology is described, so you write in pencil, how does Salmonella typhi get transmitted? And please remember, your mind remembers that information better as answer to a question rather than a straight fact. Third, read again. Fourth, recite. This is something which we have all experienced, but we don't use it. Let me try. Our pledges. क्या फर्क है? क्या फर्क है दोनों? रेसिटेशन। वो आपकी मैडम ना बचपने में 10 बार 20 बार 25 बार आपको सुनाती, चलो आपको याद भी हो जाता था, उसके बाद भी आपको सुनाती। And this is what is called, and actually it's not a whimsical thing कि उसको और कोई काम नहीं था इसलिए वो आपको सुनाती रहती। This is what is called law of overlearning. If it requires 5 attempts to memorize something, read it 10 times. Because if you look at the forgetting curve, normally, and if you overlearn, then so this law of overlearning is actually क्लास में हो सकता है, you may not be able to do बच्चों को खड़ा करके आप बोलो एक और एप्पल वो नहीं करा सकते, बट एटलीस्ट व्हेन दे आर रीडिंग एट होम, इट्स अ गुड आइडिया टू डिस्कस. Not only it helps you to overlearn, उसका एक और एडवांटेज होता है. एक तो विजुअल जा रहे हैं, एक ऑडिटरी सेंसेशंस जा रहे हैं, और एक मुंह से आप बोल रहे हो. सो योर माइंड ड्यूअल चैनल. अगर एक छोटा सा ब्रिज है और उसके ऊपर एक वक्त में एक ही गाड़ी जा सकती है, तो आप 2 ब्रिज बनाओ, तो आप 2 गाड़ी जाएंगे. You know the amount of information that can go in from one sensory source और add हो जाएगा. So have multiple sensory inputs for learning. Then what you do? When you recite and when you are comfortable, कि अभी मेरे को याद हो गया, please close the book. Then recite again. Open the book and then review. क्या ठीक बोला, क्या करा, और जो गलत बोला उसको you review. So this SQ3R is highly effective technique for every level. As effective for a 10th standard student as it is for my age. Even when I have to read something new, I follow this. अभी this is a book बैठ के मेरी फाइल देख रहे थे वहाँ पे. I made certain notes because I was not able to remember, so I have written them. And while traveling back, I will keep on, reading and reciting, reading and reciting. And if something is not remembered, I will read it again. Highly effective. Tell your student, teach your student this, and then find an appreciable improvement in the amount of information that they retain. Now, this is another thing which you can use. I used it exclusively when I was at CMC and I was taking MBBS classes. I used to do it exclusively. Your mind cannot do 2 things at a time. Our mind is not processor को क्या बोलते हैं? Core, multi-core. Your mind is not a multi-core processor. It can do only one thing at a time. So या तो it can understand or it can write. You have seen those stenographers. They take a lot of short notes. सुबह से शाम तक short note लेके लिखते रहते हैं, टाइप करते रहते हैं. शाम को पूछो कि आज क्या टाइप किया, वो नहीं पता, क्योंकि ध्यान जाता ही नहीं. सोना टाइप किया, सोना लिखा टाइप. And that actually is the reason for one of the interesting definitions of lecture. You know what is a lecture? A process by which notes of the teacher become notes of the student without going through mind of either. टीचर ने बोल दिया, स्टूडेंट ने कॉपी पे लिख लिया, कॉपी बंद करके रख दी, ध्यान से पहले पढ़. And nobody reads it. So if at all you have to write, you should write on your hard disk. This hard disk, not on paper. So when I started my class, I'll tell them, please close your notebooks. उस टाइम ये phones नहीं थे, so वो photo भी नहीं खींचते थे. So all that they have to do is just ask them to close their notebooks. I would give a talk for about 10 to 15 minutes. Then I'll say, okay, now you have 5 minutes to write whatever you want from memory. But during this time, you can discuss with your friends if you don't remember anything. Or you can even ask me if you have not understood. So there will be a lot of noise in the classroom. And be happy with that noise. Don't go with the concept of sui patak, pin drop silence. That doesn't help. excitement will always help you remember things better. Whenever your mind is excited, whenever your learning is associated with excitement, it will help you to remember better. So allow them that 5 minutes to write, and I'll see, okay, everybody has finished, then I'll start the next phase. Again, talk for 15 minutes, give them 5 minutes for writing, again 15 and 5. So that's how I spent my 1 hour. It has multiple advantages. One, that they are listening only, not writing. So mind is doing one thing first. Second, when they are writing, they have to write from memory. They don't have to take a stenographer's short note. And when you write from memory, you don't exactly write what I am saying. You would probably rephrase it in your own words and then write. So I don't know how true this is, but I was told that one of the teachers did an experiment and he sometimes narrated jokes in between. And the student wrote those jokes also. Because they were not understanding what is being said. Just was thinking that joke was real. So that needs to be avoided. Second technique which you can use is what is called this Cornell note-taking system. This originated from the University of Cornell, so it bears their name. Many universities in India are actually following this, and Manipal University has printed notebooks in this format for all their students. Now what basically this system entails, that if this is your page, then 2 inches on this side and 2 inches on the bottom. So the place for writing is this. So what you do, you record the notes here, leave a lot of space between points during the class. At the end of the class, please fill those gaps. You don't have to write should, would, are. You can actually miss out on those things. What you write is the concept. What you write is the main theme, rather than being a linguistic expert or looking after the language. Now, on the sides, this part, you write the main idea. So today we will learn about typhoid. Then formulate certain questions which connect the points, which basically causes typhoid. And you have already written the answer over there. You are working in reverse. You have the answer here, now you are framing questions. So you write that. Then you can make some flow diagrams, flow charts, you can make some prompts. And after the class and during review, this becomes an important thing. So what you can do is to fold the page. Now you have only access to the questions. So try answering those questions, open the page and then compare where you were correct and where you were. And the bottom is, after you have done everything related to that particular topic, make a small sum, which you can quickly use to repeat and remember before the exam. So Cornell note-taking system has shown its utility at multiple places, and it's not difficult. Even with conventional books, all that you need to tell the students is एक सीधी line मार दो, एक line मार दो. Initially, it might require some extra effort, but then generally, it's easy to handle and easy to do. This is the sequence which you would follow. So, record, reduce, that means make a little summary, recite, and you'll be surprised that every time we talk about better learning or memorization, recite always comes. I told you the reasons. It adds one extra input in the form of auditory input to your mind. It provides another channel through which information can go into your mind. Then reflect and review. This is just one example of
when we prepare for examinations, MCQ, we ask the students to first read MCQs and then go to the booklet. Then they know the points which are incorporated into the book.
You're very right. Most of the things that we talk in educational workshops, etc., वो ऐसे नहीं है कि मैंने कहीं से नहीं निकाल दिए. You know, they are already known since ages. Only thing is we just put it in technical terms and a little more perspective so that you understand it better. But actually think of it, ये सारी चीजें तो आप पूरी नहीं कर रहे हैं तो आधी कर रहे हैं, पूरी कर रहे हैं, पर हम कर रहे हैं. It's nothing something which is new. Only thing is you need to make it more methodical and tell the students why you are doing it and how you are doing it. Because then it will make things easier to remember.
The main difficulty is the syllabus is so vast. There is so vast amount of literature and knowledge which we have to deal with students. The time, the method to learn and decide this quality steps is so time consuming.
तो देखो ना, उसका तो कोई हल है नहीं. सिलेबस तो जो उन्होंने प्रिस्क्राइब किया है वो किया ही है, उसको तो हम काट नहीं सकते. और अगर आप कह रहे हो कि हम टाइम नहीं लगाएंगे तो फिर हम वो पाठ पढ़ेंगे भी नहीं और याद भी नहीं रहेगा. उतनी देर याद रहेगा बस ध्यान में लिखेंगे फिर भूल जाएंगे. सो डिसाइड व्हाई वी आर टीचिंग. आर वी टीचिंग ओनली टू राइट द एग्जामिनेशन और आर वी टीचिंग सो दैट दे रिमेंबर दैट एंड यूज इट इन लाइफ.
These days examinations are becoming more important than the actual learning.
ये वो हम नहीं बनाया ना, किसी और को क्यों ब्लेम करें? हम नहीं बनाया. So as teachers we have actually done. So if you give case-based questions, which student cannot write just by copying from the book, then it becomes easy. अभी प्रॉब्लम ये होती है कि जो आपके क्वेश्चंस होते हैं वो आप नेट पे सर्च कर लो, आपको सारा कुछ वहाँ से मिल जाता है, आगे हटा. पर अगर आप उसको एक केस बेस्ड करोगे कि पेशेंट को फीवर था, 25 डेज से ठीक नहीं हो रहा था, फिर उसके ब्लड कल्चर में ये आया, साथ में ये कॉम्प्लिकेशन हो गई, तो ये किताब में नहीं मिलता. मतलब बिखरा बिखरा मिलता है, ये आपको एक जगह फिर इंटीग्रेट करना है.
Students are more worried about their competitive exams. They are constantly under stress to clear that exam instead of the basic learning of the patient.
इसी को तो हम रिवर्स में यूज कर सकते हैं ना. अगर आप MCQ केस बेस्ड दोगे तो वो आराम से पढ़ेंगे. अगर आप उनको बोलो कि अपने क्लास के एंड में मैं आपको 5 प्रैक्टिस MCQ भी दूंगा तो वो खुशी से आएंगे आपकी क्लास में. नो वी कैन यूज इट. वी कांट ब्लेम द स्टूडेंट्स. अगर आज मैं होता उनकी जगह तो मुझे भी तो यही चिंता होती है ना कि मेरे को PG मिलेगी कि नहीं मिलेगी. I couldn't have said कि नहीं PG नहीं तो कोई बात नहीं, मैं तो लर्निंग करूँगा. That's not possible. That will happen always.
You know, the intelligence and the other abilities of the mind of all the people, they are almost alike. There may be little difference. But you know, here I think the cognitive powers of each human being, they differ, I think. And the way they try to assimilate things, for each person there has to be some different way of assimilating, retaining those things, and then utilizing this in real life.
सर ये प्रोग्रामिंग पर डिपेंड करता है. मतलब एट बर्थ there is no difference in the size of the brain or the capacity of the brain. Now what happens is people living in rural areas, for example, who are not exposed to high tech, versus people living in cities versus people living in metros. Now the kids will show a difference. Somebody living in Delhi, for example, versus somebody living in Bathinda would be would be different. So all that I am saying is that it is the management of the mind which is different rather than the hard disk. Hard disk remains the same. How you use that hard disk, how much RAM you put, how much power supply you give, that is what makes all it.